I wasn't supposed to be here. That was my first thought as I stared at the champagne flute in my hand, watching bubbles rise like tiny prayers for escape. My cousin's wedding. All white roses and false smiles. 200 people pretending they were happy to be crammed into this overpriced ballroom. I'd claimed a corner table, the kind reserved for distant relatives nobody really knows, and I was perfectly content to disappear into the white noise of celebration. Then he sat down. I didn't look up at first. I was too busy tracing the rim of my glass, thinking about how I could slip out without my mother noticing. But I felt him. The way you feel a storm rolling in. That electric charge in the air that makes your skin prickle. I hate crowds too. His voice was dark velvet, smooth but with an edge that suggested it could cut if necessary. I lifted my eyes and forgot how to breathe. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me bring you more stories like this one. He was impossibly beautiful in a way that made no sense. Sharp jaw, eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and a mouth that curved just slightly. Not quite a smile, but close enough to be dangerous. His suit probably cost more than my car, tailored so perfectly it looked painted on. But it wasn't the expensive clothes or the model-worthy face that made my heart stutter. It was the way he looked at me, like he saw something worth seeing. My voice came out scratchy. I cleared my throat. Yeah, me too. Then why are we here? He leaned back in his chair with the confidence of someone who'd never questioned his right to any space he occupied. Family obligation, I said, surprising myself with honesty. You? Same. His lips twitched. Though I suspect my family is more insistent than yours. There was something in the way he said it that made me pause. Around us, I noticed heads turning. Whispers started like falling dominoes, one person to another spreading across tables. People weren't just looking. They were staring with a mixture of fear and fascination. You're scaring people, I observed. I know. He didn't seem bothered by it. Does it scare you? I should have said yes. A reasonable person would have said yes. But I was tired of being reasonable, tired of being invisible, and something about this man made me feel reckless. Should it? His laugh was low and unexpected. Probably. I'm Emma, I offered, extending my hand. He looked at it for a moment, and I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Then his fingers closed around mine. Warm, firm, and deliberate. Dante. The name hung in the air between us like smoke. I knew that name. Everyone in this city knew that name, even if they pretended not to. Dante Morelli, the youngest boss in the city's history. The man who'd inherited an empire built on shadows and silence when his father died 3 years ago. The man they whispered about in parking lots and behind closed doors. I should have pulled my hand away. Should have excused myself and run. Instead, I held his gaze and said, "You really do hate crowds, don't you? Every single person in this room wants something from me." His thumb brushed across my knuckles before he released my hand. "Except you. You just want to leave. So do you." "Yes." He studied me with those impossibly dark eyes. "So why don't we? Leave? Why not?" He stood, offering his hand again. "I have a car. You have a desire to be anywhere but here. It's a simple equation." This was insane. I didn't know this man. Dangerous didn't begin to cover what he represented. But when I looked up at him, I didn't see the monster people whispered about. I saw someone who looked as trapped as I felt. Someone who wore his loneliness like armor because it was safer than letting people close. I took his hand. The night air hit my face like freedom. Dante's car was exactly what I'd expected. Black, expensive, and whisper quiet. He opened the passenger door for me with old-world courtesy that seemed at odds with his reputation. Inside, the leather smelled like money and secrets. "Where are we going?" I asked as he slid into the driver's seat. "Does it matter?" It should have. But as he pulled away from the venue, leaving the suffocating crowd behind, I realized I didn't care. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt alive. We drove in silence for a while, the city lights painting streaks across the windshield. I studied him from the corner of my eye. His jaw was tight, his hand steady on the wheel. There was something coiled about him, like a predator at rest, but never truly relaxed. "You're not what I expected," I said finally. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Something more scary?" His laugh was bitter. "Give it time." "Is that a warning?" "It's a fact." He glanced at me, and for a moment his expression softened. "I'm not a good man, Emma. People cross the street when they see me coming. They're right to. Then why aren't I crossing the street? Maybe you don't know any better." "Or maybe," I countered, I know exactly what I'm doing. That was a lie. I had no idea what I was doing. But something about this man pulled at me, made me want to dig beneath the surface everyone else was too afraid to scratch. He pulled into a parking lot overlooking the harbor. The city sprawled behind us, all glittering lights and distant sounds. Before us, water stretched dark and infinite under the moon. I come here when I need to think, Dante said, killing the engine. When the noise gets too loud. Is it always loud? Always. He turned to face me fully. Do you know who I am? Really know? I know your name. I know the stories. And you're still here. Stories aren't always true. These ones are. His voice went hard. I've done things that would make you run screaming. I've hurt people. I've ordered things done that keep me awake at night. I inherited a kingdom built on violence, and every day I make choices that damn me a little more. I should have been terrified. His confession was brutal, unflinching. But I heard something underneath it. A plea, maybe. Or a test. He was trying to scare me away, and I understood why. It was easier to be the monster than to risk someone seeing the man underneath. Why did you sit next to me? I asked instead of running. The question seemed to catch him off guard. I don't know. You looked lost. Like me. I was lost. Still am, probably. What are you looking for? I don't know. I laughed, but it came out sad. Something real, I guess. Everything feels so fake lately. My job, my relationships, even this wedding. Just people performing happiness. You want real? He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His touch was gentle in a way that contradicted everything I knew about him. Real is messy. Real is dangerous. Real is this. Right now, knowing you should go but staying anyway. My heart was pounding so hard I wondered if he could hear it. I'm not afraid of messy. You should be. Especially with me. Then why don't you take me back? Because I'm selfish. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb tracing my jaw. Because for 5 minutes, I want to pretend I'm someone who deserves to sit next to a girl like you. Someone who doesn't have blood on his hands and ghosts in his past. Dante, I know this is crazy. I know I should stay away from you. But I haven't felt human in years, Emma. And then you looked at me like I was just a man, not a monster, and He stopped, jaw clenching. I'm not good at this. I don't do this. Do what? Feel, care. Want something that isn't about power or survival. I covered his hand with mine, holding it against my face. What if I told you I see both, the monster and the man? And what if I told you I'm not running? I'd say you're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe I'm both. He kissed me then. Or maybe I kissed him. I honestly couldn't say who moved first. All I knew was his mouth on mine, gentle at first, then desperate, like he was drowning and I was air. His hands tangled in my hair, and I gripped his jacket, pulling him closer even though there was no space left between us. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. I'm going to ruin you, he whispered. Or I'll save you, I whispered back. That's not how this story ends. Then let's write a new ending. I woke up in a bedroom that wasn't mine, wrapped in sheets that felt like clouds. For a moment, panic seized me. Where was I? Then it all came rushing back. The wedding, Dante, the harbor, the kiss that felt like falling and flying at the same time. He'd brought me to his penthouse high above the city. We'd talked until dawn, sitting on his balcony, sharing stories like teenagers at a sleepover. He told me about his mother, who died when he was 12, about inheriting his father's empire at 25, and the weight of expectations that crushed him daily, about wanting a different life but being trapped by loyalty and legacy. I told him about my ordinary existence, working at a bookstore, living in a tiny apartment, feeling invisible in a world that rewarded the loud and ambitious. I told him about dreams I'd abandoned and fears I couldn't shake. We didn't kiss again. We didn't need to. Something deeper was forming between us, something that felt inevitable and terrifying. I found him in the kitchen, making coffee. He'd changed into jeans and a t-shirt, looking impossibly normal and somehow more dangerous for it. Domestic Dante was harder to reconcile than the man in the expensive suit. Morning, I said, suddenly awkward. He turned, and his face transformed when he saw me. Not a smile exactly, but a softening. Morning. Coffee? Please. We stood in his pristine kitchen, sipping coffee and stealing glances like shy strangers. It felt surreal. Me in his t-shirt that I'd borrowed, him barefoot in his own home, pretending this was normal. I should probably go, I said, though I didn't want to. Probably. He set down his mug. Emma, last night, was real, I finished. I know you're going to say it was a mistake or that we got caught up in the moment, but it wasn't. At least not for me. It wasn't for me either. That's the problem. Why is that a problem? He moved closer, invading my space in a way that made my breath catch. Because people I care about get hurt. It's not a possibility, it's a guarantee. I have enemies, Emma. People who would use you to get to me without a second thought. So what are you saying? I'm saying you should walk away while you still can. Forget last night. Forget me. Go back to your normal, safe life. My temper flared. Don't tell me what to do. Don't pretend you know what's best for me. I know my world. You don't. Then show me. Let me decide if I can handle it. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. I stepped closer, closing the distance between us. You're scared. I get it. But don't use protecting me as an excuse to protect yourself. His jaw clenched. You don't understand what you're asking. Then help me understand. Stop pushing me away and let me in. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then, without warning, he grabbed his phone and made a call. Marco, I need a full security detail. Someone I trust. Pause. Yes, now. And run a complete background check. He looked at me. Emma? Collins, I supplied, confused. He repeated my name into the phone, then hung up. When he turned back to me, his expression was deadly serious. If you're really choosing this, choosing me, then we do it right. You get protection. You learn the rules. And you understand that once you're in, there's no going back. I'm in, I said without hesitation. God help us both, he muttered, then pulled me into his arms. The restaurant was closed for private event, which apparently meant Dante wanted to introduce me to his inner circle without civilians around. I was nervous. More nervous than I'd been about anything in years. They're going to hate me, I said for the third time as we approached the entrance. They're going to be shocked. There's a difference. Dante's hand was firm on the small of my back. I haven't brought anyone to meet them in ever, actually. That's reassuring. Emma, he stopped me before we went inside. These people, they're not just my employees. They're my family. They've kept me alive more times than I can count. Their opinion matters to me. So no pressure. He smiled, really smiled, and I saw the man beneath the boss. Just be yourself. If I can fall for you in one night, they'll figure it out eventually. Did you just say you fell for me? Did I? His eyes glinted with mischief. Must have been the coffee talking. Inside, 5 people sat around a large table. They all turned when we entered, and I felt their collective scrutiny like a physical weight. Everyone, Dante said, his hand never leaving my back. This is Emma. Emma, this is everyone. A woman with sharp features and sharper eyes spoke first. You brought a civilian to family dinner. Either the world is ending or you've lost your mind. Good to see you too, Sophia. Dante pulled out a chair for me. Emma, Sophia runs our legitimate businesses. She's also my cousin and favorite pain in the ass. Sophia's expression didn't soften, but I caught a hint of curiosity. Civilian girlfriend is a bold choice. They tend to complicate things. She's not, Dante started, then stopped. Actually, I don't know what she is. Emma, what are you? All eyes turned to me. I could have said something safe, something easy. Instead, I looked at Dante and spoke from the heart. I'm someone who saw a man sitting alone at a wedding and recognized another lost soul. I'm someone who isn't afraid of complicated. And I'm someone who thinks your cousin has trust issues. Silence. Then Sophia laughed. A real surprised laugh. Oh, I like her. She's either incredibly brave or suicidal. Both, I confirmed. The tension broke. Marco, Dante's head of security, introduced himself with a crushing handshake. Then came Alessandro, his lawyer. Tommy, who handled logistics. I didn't ask. And finally, Father Vincent, which threw me completely. A priest? I whispered to Dante. Even criminals need spiritual guidance, Father Vincent said with a kind smile. Though I prefer to think of myself as a family counselor who happens to be ordained. Dinner was surreal. They talked business and code I didn't understand, but they also told embarrassing stories about Dante as a kid, argued about sports, and treated each other with genuine affection. This wasn't what I'd expected from a crime family. They seemed normal. Almost. So, Emma, Sophia said over dessert, what exactly are your intentions with our boy? Sophia, Dante warned. It's okay. I met her gaze steadily. I don't know yet. We just met. But I like him. He makes me feel brave. And I think maybe I make him feel human. Sophia studied me for a long moment. Fair answer. But understand this. If you hurt him, civilian status won't protect you. If I hurt him, I won't deserve protection. She nodded, apparently satisfied. Dante reached under the table and squeezed my hand. After dinner, as people were leaving, Marco pulled Dante aside. I tried not to eavesdrop, but voices carried. Boss, the Castellanos are making moves. They know about her. Already? Word spreads fast. They're calling her your weakness. Then they're not wrong. Dante's voice was cold. Double her security, and send a message. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. My blood ran cold. This was real. The danger wasn't theoretical anymore. I'd known it intellectually. But hearing Dante talk about protection details and sending messages made it concrete. When everyone had left, Dante found me on his balcony, staring at the city. You heard, he said. I heard. Having second thoughts? Terrified thoughts, but not second ones. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, and I leaned into his warmth. I won't let anything happen to you. I know. But Dante, what if I'm what gets you hurt? What if me being here makes you vulnerable? You do make me vulnerable, but maybe I needed that. Maybe being invincible was killing me slowly. I turned in his arms. Promise me something. Anything. Don't let me make you weak. Let me make you stronger. He kissed my forehead. Deal. As long as you promise not to run when things get scary. Things are already scary. I'm still here. Yeah, he murmured. You are. The photos arrived 3 days later. Someone had left them at my apartment building. Me leaving Dante's place. Me at the restaurant. Me kissing him goodnight. Written across them in red marker. Pretty girls break so easily. Marco found them first. He'd been stationed outside my building, part of the new normal I was still adjusting to. When he showed Dante, I watched my gentle, complicated man transform into someone else entirely. Get her out of there, he ordered, his voice arctic. Bring her to the safe house. Now. Dante, I started. Not negotiable. His eyes were black with rage. They threatened you. They don't get to do that and breathe the same air as me. The safe house was a nondescript townhouse in the suburbs, the kind of place you'd never look at twice. Inside it was fortress. Reinforced walls, security cameras, weapons I didn't want to think about. I can't stay here forever, I said as Marco did a security sweep. You can stay here until I kill everyone who thinks they can hurt you, Dante replied, and he wasn't joking. That's not a solution. That's revenge. It's both. I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. Listen to me. If you let them turn you into a monster because of me, they win. If you lose yourself protecting me, what's the point? The point is, you stay alive, and you stay you. The man who sat next to me at a wedding, the man who talked about wanting a different life. You can't become what you hate just to keep me safe. Watch me. He left before I could argue further. Marco stayed, along with 2 other guards I didn't know. I felt trapped, helpless, and furious. This wasn't the life I'd chosen. Or was it? I'd known the risks. I'd said I wasn't running. But reality was different than romance. Reality was sitting in a safe house while the man you were falling for went off to do things you didn't want to imagine. Sophia showed up around midnight, surprising me. She came alone, which seemed to surprise the guards too. How did you... I started. I know all Dante's bolt holes. Plus, I'm scarier than most of his enemies. She settled onto the couch next to me. You look terrible. Thanks. He's going to do something stupid. I know. Are you going to stop him? How? I'm locked in here like Rapunzel. Sophia smiled, but it wasn't kind. You're not locked in. You're protected. There's a difference. But if you wanted to leave, I could make that happen. Why would you help me? Because I've known Dante his whole life. I've watched him carry weight that would crush normal people. I've seen him sacrifice everything for duty and loyalty. And in 1 week, you've made him want something for himself. That's either beautiful or dangerous, and I need to know which. What if it's both? Then we're in for an interesting ride. She stood. Come on, I'm taking you to him. The guards will let us leave because I'm second in command and they value their jobs. She headed for the door. Question is, are you brave enough to walk into a room full of dangerous men and tell Dante not to become one of them? I didn't hesitate. Let's go. The warehouse was on the docks, exactly where I'd expect an organized crime confrontation to happen. Sophia had called ahead, so we weren't stopped at the door. Inside, Dante stood in the center of a semicircle of armed men, facing 3 men on their knees. These are the ones who threatened her, someone explained as we entered. Dante didn't turn around. I thought I told you to keep her at the safe house. You told Marco. You didn't tell me. Sophia pushed me forward. And she has something to say. Now he turned and his expression went from cold fury to shock. Emma, Don't kill them, I said simply. They threatened you. I know, I saw the pictures. But if you kill them, you become what they expected. You prove everyone right who says you're nothing but a monster. I am a monster. No, you're not. You're a man who makes hard choices in an impossible world. But this, I gestured to the kneeling men. This is a choice. You can choose differently. One of the men on his knees laughed, harsh and ugly. Listen to your little whore, Morelli. Getting soft? Your father would be ashamed. Dante moved faster than I could track. 1 second he was standing still. The next his gun was pressed to the man's forehead. Say one more word about her. I dare you. Dante. I moved closer, even though every instinct screamed to run. Look at me. Not them. Me. Slowly, his eyes shifted to mine. I saw murder there, barely restrained. But I also saw anguish. I know you're angry. I know you want to protect me, but this isn't protection. This is rage. And rage makes you sloppy. It makes you weak. I reached out slowly, placing my hand over his on the gun. You're better than this. Better than them. Show them why people follow you. Not because they fear you, but because you're worth following. The warehouse was dead silent. I could feel dozens of eyes on us, watching this intimate moment play out in front of them. Finally, Dante lowered the gun. Get them out of my sight, he ordered. Break their hands so they can't hold a camera. Then make sure everyone knows. Emma Collins is under my protection. Anyone who threatens her has threatened me. Spread the word. The men were dragged away, screaming. It wasn't mercy exactly, but it wasn't murder either. It was a middle ground, a compromise between justice and revenge. When we were alone, relatively speaking, with Sophia and Marco still present, Dante pulled me into his arms so hard I gasped. Don't ever do that again, he whispered against my hair. Don't put yourself between me and a threat. Then don't make me have to. I'm trying to keep you safe. I know, but I need you whole more than I need you violent. He pulled back to look at me. How did you get so brave? I'm not brave, I'm terrified. But I'm more afraid of losing you to darkness than I am of your enemies. Sophia cleared her throat. This is very touching, but we should probably go. Half your crew just watched your girlfriend talk you down from murder. The gossip alone will be legendary. Dante laughed, sharp and surprised. Yeah, great for my reputation. Maybe your reputation needs updating, I suggested. Things changed after that night. Dante didn't try to hide me away anymore. Instead, he brought me into his world. Carefully, gradually, but deliberately. I learned the difference between legitimate businesses and not-so-legitimate ones. I met suppliers and associates, always introduced as someone important to me. I learned to recognize danger in subtle shifts of conversation and changes in body language. It wasn't the life I'd imagined, but it was fascinating in its complexity. Dante wasn't just a criminal. He was a businessman, a strategist, a leader managing dozens of moving pieces. He provided for people, protected neighborhoods, enforced rules that police couldn't or wouldn't. It was morally gray in a way that made my bookstore existence seem naive. But I also saw the cost. Sleepless nights, constant vigilance, decisions that haunted him. He carried the weight of every person dependent on him, every choice that could mean life or death. Do you ever think about leaving? I asked one night, lying in his bed, tracing patterns on his chest. Every day. Why don't you? Because I'm responsible for 200 families. I walk away, someone worse takes over. Someone who doesn't care about rules or honor or protecting people. That's not your responsibility. It became my responsibility when my father died and his men looked to me. When families needed protection I could provide. When kids needed jobs that wouldn't get them killed. He sighed. It's easy to judge from outside. But in here, it's survival. It's community. It's all they have. I thought about that. About my simple worldview of right and wrong, good and evil. Reality was messier. Teach me, I said suddenly. Teach you what? Everything. How your world works. How to help. How to be useful instead of just protected. He propped himself up on one elbow, studying me. Why? Because I'm in this now. I'm not going anywhere. So I might as well understand it. Plus, I'm smart. I learn fast. And maybe I can see things you're too close to see. A slow smile spread across his face. You want to be my partner. I want to be your equal. There's a difference. The next day, Sophia became my teacher. She was brutal, honest, and surprisingly patient. She taught me the business side. How money moved, how territories were divided, how to read financial statements that hid more than they revealed. You're good at this, she admitted after a week. Scary good. I like puzzles. This is just a really complicated puzzle. It's also life and death. I know, but knowing I can help keeps me from feeling helpless. Marco taught me practical skills, situational awareness, basic self-defense, how to spot a tail. Alessandro taught me legal loopholes and how to communicate without saying anything incriminating. Even Tommy, gruff and suspicious at first, showed me logistics routes and supply chains. But the most important lesson came from Father Vincent. "You're trying to save him," he observed during one of our conversations. He'd taken to checking on me weekly, part counselor, part confessor. Is that wrong? It's impossible. People can't be saved from outside. They can only be saved from within. You can love him, support him, believe in him, but you can't carry his burden. Then what am I doing? Lighting a path, showing him there's another way. That's all any of us can do for people we love, be a lighthouse when they're lost at sea. I thought about that often in the weeks that followed. Dante was changing, slowly. He delegated more. He listened to alternatives before defaulting to violence. He started talking about long-term plans, sustainability, getting out eventually. But his enemies noticed too. They saw the shift and interpreted it as weakness, which meant new challenges were coming. And I was about to learn that love in this world came with a price. The betrayal came from inside. That's what made it devastating. Alessandro, the lawyer I'd trusted, had been feeding information to the Castellanos for months. Financial records, meeting locations, security details, including mine. He'd been building a case to take Dante down, earning trust while selling us out. We only discovered it because I'd noticed a discrepancy in some accounting. Numbers that didn't quite add up, meetings that Alessandro had recorded differently than how I remembered them. When I mentioned it to Sofia, she dug deeper. What we found was systematic betrayal. Alessandro had been positioning himself to take over once Dante was arrested or killed. He'd been careful, patient, nearly perfect. But he hadn't counted on someone outside the organization noticing patterns he'd hidden in plain sight. The confrontation happened in Dante's office. Alessandro walked in expecting a normal meeting. Instead, he found Dante, Sofia, Marco, and me, surrounded by evidence of his treachery. To his credit, he didn't deny it. "It's just business, Dante. You know how this works. Loyalty lasts until someone offers a better deal. I trusted you." Dante's voice was quiet, which was more terrifying than if he'd been screaming. "I brought you into my family. My father trusted your father. Your father was old school. The world changed. You changed. Getting soft over some girl." He sneered at me. "Made you weak. I'm just doing what needs to be done. By selling me out to the Castellanos? By putting Emma in danger? She's not part of this world. She's a liability." I'd been silent until then, but his dismissal stung. "I'm the liability who caught you. Seems like you're the one who got sloppy." Alessandro's face twisted with rage. "You think you matter? You're a distraction, a phase. He'll get bored and you'll end up dead or abandoned. That's how this works." Dante moved faster than thought. One moment he was sitting, the next Alessandro was slammed against the wall, Dante's forearm across his throat. "Talk about her again," Dante said softly, "and I'll forget we grew up together. I'll forget every time you had my back. I'll forget everything except that you threatened what's mine. I should have been frightened by his violence. Instead, I felt protected, valued, seen." "Dante," I said gently, "he's not worth it. Let him go. He betrayed us." "I know, but killing him won't undo that. And it'll just prove him right, that you're becoming something you're not." The struggle was visible on Dante's face. Rage versus control, justice versus revenge. Finally, he released Alessandro, who collapsed to the floor, gasping. "You're out," Dante said. "Out of the organization, out of the city, out of my sight. Marco will escort you to collect your things. You have 24 hours to disappear. If I ever see you again, I won't be as merciful." "That's not how this works," Alessandro started. "It is now. I'm changing the rules. No more blood for blood unless there's no other choice. No more eye for an eye. I'm building something different and you're not part of it." After Alessandro was gone, Sofia whistled low. "You just let a traitor walk away. People will question that. Let them. Emma's right. We don't have to be what everyone expects. We can be better. Or we can be dead," Sofia countered. "Mercy is expensive in this world. Then I'll pay the price." Dante pulled me into his arms. "I'm tired of paying in blood. Maybe it's time to try something else. But mercy has consequences." Alessandro didn't disappear. Instead, he went straight to the Castellanos with everything he knew, and what he knew could destroy us. The Castellanos moved fast. Within days, they hit 3 of Dante's legitimate businesses. Warehouses burned, trucks hijacked, shipments stolen. They were careful to avoid casualties, which meant they were sending a message, not starting an all-out war. Yet, they want you to retaliate, I said, studying the reports. They're trying to provoke you into doing something that'll bring law enforcement down on everyone. I know their game. Dante's jaw was tight. Doesn't mean I can ignore it. If I don't respond, I look weak. Other families will start testing me. So respond differently. Hit them where they're not expecting it. And where would that be? I'd been studying the Castellanos' operation for days, ever since Alessandro's betrayal. They were old school, traditional, predictable in their structure. They're legitimate businesses. They've been using 3 restaurant chains to launder money for years. What if those restaurants suddenly failed health inspections? What if the media started investigating their business practices? Sophia's eyes widened. You want to fight them legally? I want to fight them smart. They expect violence. Give them bureaucracy instead. Tie them up in investigations and legal battles. Make them spend money on lawyers instead of bullets. Dante stared at me. That's actually brilliant and completely insane. Insane works, Marco added. They won't see it coming. We spent the next week weaponizing the system. Anonymous tips to health departments. Leaked financial documents to investigative journalists. Pressure on city officials who owed Dante favors. It wasn't violent, but it was devastatingly effective. The Castellanos' operations ground to a halt. Restaurants closed. Investigations opened. Their clean money sources dried up overnight. And they couldn't retaliate with violence because we hadn't used violence? How do you justify killing someone for calling in a health inspection? But they tried anyway. The attempt on my life came on a Tuesday. I was leaving the bookstore. I'd refused to give up my job entirely, when a car jumped the curb. Marco, ever vigilant, pulled me back just in time. The car crashed into the building instead, and when the driver emerged, he was armed. What happened next was chaos. Gunfire, screaming. Marco returning fire while pushing me behind a car. Sirens in the distance. And then silence. The driver was dead. Marco was wounded but alive. And I was covered in glass and blood. None of it mine. Shaking uncontrollably. Dante arrived before the police, which should have been impossible. He pulled me into his arms, checking for injuries with frantic hands. I'm okay, I kept saying. I'm okay. You're not okay. None of this is okay. He pulled back and I saw tears in his eyes. Actual tears. I almost lost you. Emma, I almost... But you didn't. I'm here. I'm alive. Because of Marco. He looked at his injured security chief with something like worship. I owe you everything. Just doing my job, boss. Marco winced as paramedics worked on his shoulder. But maybe we should revisit that whole no more violence strategy. The police arrived and the story became complicated. A random attack. Wrong place, wrong time. Nothing to do with organized crime. The lie was well rehearsed, supported by witnesses who saw what they were told to see. But privately, everyone knew. The Castellanos had crossed a line. They'd tried to kill Emma Collins, the woman under Dante Morelli's protection, and that meant war was no longer avoidable. They want a war, Dante said at the emergency family meeting that night. They get one. But we do it smart. Emma's way, legal pressure, media attention, making them fight on multiple fronts, but we also protect ourselves. Double the security, move to defensive positions, and make it clear. Anyone who helps them becomes our enemy too. What about Emma? Sophia asked. She's the target. She stays with me. Always. No more separate apartments, no more bookstore, no more risks. I wanted to argue, but I was too shaken. The attempt on my life had made everything real in a way I hadn't fully grasped before. This wasn't romantic danger. It was actual, lethal, permanent danger. I'm sorry, I whispered to Dante later, alone in his penthouse. I brought this on you. No, they did this. You just gave me a reason to fight back smarter. He held me close, and I felt him trembling. When I got that call, when Marco said someone tried to kill you, His voice broke. I can't do this without you. I thought I could, but I can't. You won't have to. I tilted his face to mine. We're in this together. All of it. The good, the bad, and the terrifying. I love you. The words burst out of him like he couldn't hold them back anymore. I know it's too soon. I know it's crazy. But I love you. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be better. I love you too. I kissed him, tasting salt from his tears. Or maybe mine. And we're going to end this. Together. We're going to show them that different doesn't mean weak. Together, he echoed. And for the first time since this began, I believed we might actually survive. The end came not with violence, but with exposure. We'd been methodically dismantling the Castellanos' operation for weeks. Legal attacks, media scrutiny, financial pressure. But the killing blow came from an unexpected source, Father Vincent. He'd been quietly documenting the Castellanos' crimes for years. Real crimes, not the quasi-legal gray areas most families operated in. Human trafficking, forced prostitution, drug distribution to kids, the kinds of things that crossed lines even in the criminal world. He brought his evidence to Dante one night, setting a thick folder on the desk between them. "I've been collecting this for 15 years, Vincent said quietly, waiting for the right moment. I think that moment is now." "Why now?" Dante asked. "And why did you wait so long?" "Because your father wanted to handle it his way. Internal justice, family business. But he died before he could act. And I've watched you these past months trying to build something different, something better. This is my contribution to that vision." The evidence was damning. Not just crimes, but documented patterns, testimony from victims, financial records that couldn't be explained away. It was enough to put the entire Castellano leadership away for life. "If I use this, it'll destroy them," Dante said slowly. "Their families, their soldiers, everyone. Is that worse than what they've done to others?" I asked gently. "Than what they tried to do to you? To me? No. But it changes things. It means choosing law over our code." "Maybe the code needs to change," Sophia suggested. "Maybe there are some things that shouldn't be handled internally." The debate raged for hours. Marco argued for handling it the traditional way. Retaliation, violence, settling it internally. Alessandro's betrayal had made him cautious about involving outsiders. But Tommy surprised everyone by siding with legal action. "I got kids," he said gruffly. "Grandkids. What the Castellanos did to those children, that ain't business. That's evil. You want to be different, boss? Start by saying some things are wrong no matter what our code says." In the end, Dante made his choice. He gave the evidence to a federal prosecutor he trusted, one of the few who wasn't corrupt, who actually cared about justice. The arrests came 2 days later, sweeping and decisive. The Castellano leadership, their key soldiers, their financial people, all of them taken down in coordinated raids. The aftermath was complicated. Some families saw Dante's move as brilliant, eliminating enemies without starting a war. Others saw it as betrayal of the code, cooperation with law enforcement. Dante's position became precarious, balanced between respect and suspicion. "I'm done," he announced at the next major family meeting. "Not immediately, but soon. I'm getting out." The room exploded with protests. Marco looked betrayed. Sophia seemed torn. Even Father Vincent looked uncertain. "You can't just walk away," someone argued. "That's not how this works." "I'm not walking away. I'm transitioning out. Sophia will take over. She's been running most of the legitimate operations anyway, and she's better at the politics than I ever was. Marco stays as security chief. Alessandro's replacement is already being vetted. The business continues, but with new leadership. Leadership that's not tired of the wait." "And what will you do?" Sophia asked quietly. "Live. Really live. Something I haven't done since I was 25. He reached for my hand. "Emma and I are leaving the city. Starting over somewhere no one knows who we are. Being normal." "Normal?" Marco repeated like it was a foreign word. "Boss, with respect, you've never been normal." "Then I'll learn." Dante smiled, and it was the freest expression I'd seen on his face. "I gave 15 years to this life. I think I've earned the chance to try something different." The transition took 6 months. 6 months of training Sophia, ensuring loyalties, securing agreements with other families that the change in leadership wouldn't mean weakness or opportunity. 6 months of gradually stepping back, of becoming less essential, of letting go. It was harder than Dante expected. This life had defined him since he was barely an adult. Walking away meant losing identity, purpose, community. But he did it, day by day, decision by decision, until finally the day came when he wasn't the boss anymore. We left on a Tuesday morning, no fanfare, no goodbye party, just a quiet exit from a life that had consumed us both. Marco drove us to the airport himself, and I saw tears in his eyes when he hugged Dante. "You're the best man I've ever known," Marco said roughly. "Don't forget that." "Take care of them for me," Dante replied. "All of them. Always." Sophia was dry-eyed but fierce in her goodbye. You better visit, and if normal gets boring, there's always a place for you here. I'm counting on boring, Dante told her. Boring sounds perfect. Father Vincent blessed us both, making the sign of the cross with hands that had wiped away tears of countless broken people. May you find peace. May you find purpose. May you find that the man you're becoming is even better than the man you were. Our destination was a small coastal town in Oregon, population 3,000, one stoplight, nobody who knew or cared about our past. We bought a small house overlooking the ocean, the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and knew their neighbors' names. The first month was surreal. Dante didn't know how to do nothing. He paced. He checked his phone constantly for news from the city. He startled at loud noises and scanned faces in crowds for threats that weren't there anymore. But slowly, gradually, he relaxed. Started breathing, started smiling more than frowning. We got a dog, a ridiculous golden retriever named Trouble, who thought everyone was his best friend. Dante took up woodworking, building furniture in our garage. I reopened a small bookstore in town, nothing fancy, just a place for readers to gather. We became normal. Beautifully, boringly, wonderfully normal. 6 months after we left, Sophia called with news. The Castellano leadership had been convicted on multiple charges. The organization had fractured, with most soldiers finding work with other families. The power vacuum had stabilized, with Sophia and 2 other bosses forming a kind of ruling council that managed the city's underworld, with more cooperation than competition. It's working, Sophia said, sounding surprised. Your way. Less violence, more business. It's actually working. Good, Dante said simply. I'm proud of you. And I'm happy for you. You sound lighter. I am. We both are. A year after we left, on a morning when the ocean was calm and the sky was impossibly blue, Dante proposed. Not with a fancy ring or elaborate planning, just a quiet question on our beach, with Trouble splashing in the waves nearby. Marry me, he said. Build a life with me, a real one, where our biggest problem is what to have for dinner and whether we need more milk. That sounds perfect, I replied. Yes, always yes. We got married in the town's small church with Father Vincent, who traveled across the country to perform the ceremony, and a handful of locals we'd befriended. Sophia stood as my maid of honor. Marco was Dante's best man. It was small, simple, and everything a wedding should be. During the reception at the local community center, Sophia pulled me aside. You saved him, she said. You know that, right? He was drowning in that life, and you gave him permission to want something else. He saved himself. I just reminded him he could. However it happened, thank you. For seeing the man when everyone else only saw the monster. There never was a monster, I told her. Just a good man trapped in an impossible situation, doing the best he could. That night, lying in bed in our small house, listening to the ocean through open windows, Dante pulled me close. Do you miss it? I asked. The power, the respect, the importance? Sometimes, he admitted. Not the danger or the weight, but the feeling of mattering, of having purpose. You matter here, to me, to the people in town who come into the bookstore for recommendations, to the kids you're teaching woodworking at the community center. It's just different. Different is good. Different is what I always wanted but didn't think I could have. He kissed my forehead. Thank you for showing me it was possible. Thank you for being brave enough to try. We fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other and new beginnings. Outside, the ocean kept its eternal rhythm, waves coming and going, constant and changing, just like us. I'd walked into a wedding reception looking for escape and found salvation instead. Found a man who needed saving and discovered I needed saving too. We'd survived danger, betrayal, violence, and change. And we'd come out the other side not just intact, but better. Love in the darkness had taught us how to create light. And that light was bright enough to illuminate a whole new life. Thanks so much for reading this story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did you think of Emma and Dante's journey? Drop a quick comment below.